What's up, folks? My name is Mike. I'm from NetGold, and I want to talk to you real quick about Cmos. See, I have a very obsessive mind, so I have a tendency to just overdo things. I've been obsessing over Cmos, trying to figure out exactly what's going on in this terminology people use. So with that being said, I want to explain to you what I found out and would love for you to tell me what you know so I can have a better understanding of this entire Cmos game. So with that being said, let's get started. It's going to be as quick as possible. And yeah, okay, so first things first, there's 3 tiers of Cmos. Now, I have my little notes here on this, and then on my phone, and I got some stuff written down. So just eye contact breakage, that's where it's going, to the notes, to the notes, to the notes. All right, so first of all, there's 3, what was that sound? There's 3 tiers of Cmos that I've been able to discover. Now, there's pool grown, there's ocean crafted, and ocean harvested. Now, pool grown is the stuff that everybody does not want. It's the trash stuff you can find at your local market. I found it at our local international food market, and some people like to peddle it on the streets. This stuff, and I'm inserting some images for you all here. This stuff is thick, extremely salty, and usually when it was tested, it turned out to be table salt that they were utilizing to cover this. They use the excess salt to stop mold growth. That's what it's for, because they do not take the time to properly dry it out because they're trying to push it out and get it out to the masses as quickly as possible. Okay, so that was pool grown. Pool grown is the bottom of the tier. Now the top tier, because there's 3 tiers, the top tier is going to be ocean harvested. Now, ocean harvested means that it was plucked from nature it was like made in nature, by nature, and humans went out and just was like, plucked it out, right? They went out on their boats and they dived into the bottom of the ocean or wherever it may be to get this stuff of coral reefs, rocks, stuff like that, or scoured the shores to find this stuff because it can be found on shores as well. That's ocean harvested. It means they just found it there, they got it, they know where it grows. It's like mushrooms in the woods. They know where these mushrooms grow and they pick them from there. That's ocean harvested. Now, the middle tier is ocean crafted / wild harvested. Ocean crafted / wild crafted. Now, the definition of craft is composed, fabricated, created, rendered, arranged, assembled, yada, 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 which means that someone had to make it. Now, ocean crafted is the middle tier because it is not pool grown, right? But it is not from nature by nature. It is from nature by man, in a sense, where people went out and they made this work. They took pieces of moss and they grew it. They farmed it and have farms in the ocean that they utilize. Now, we've explained the 3 tiers, right? So you got the bottom tier is pool grown, mid tier is ocean crafted / wild crafted, and then top tier is going to be ocean harvested. Okay, now, here's the thing, and this is about ocean harvested. Where is the moss grown? So ocean harvested can be picked up in Ireland, Maine, Greenland, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Grenada, Tanzania, Zanzibar, and the Philippines. All right, that's where you can get ocean harvested. It grows in the ocean, right? This is where it gets complicated because people like to use the term ocean crafted and say it's real from the rocks, but it can't be crafted. It had to be harvested. So some people say it's ocean harvested, but it's not ocean harvested. It's actually ocean crafted or altogether pool grown, depending on who is trying to peddle you. Because we actually ordered numerous Cmos from different companies, some on Amazon, some we found on the gram, some we found through Google search. And one of them turned out to use the term 100% ocean crafted Cmos, but it was 100% pool grown Cmos. And I was able to tell those pool grown Cmos because of the amount of thick, salty saltness on it. It was thick grains of salt. Now, some of the ocean crafted, wild crafted that we have does have salt on it, but it's very thin layers of salt. And to me, it honestly tastes like sand sometimes. But then there's also the ocean harvested that we got, which did have salt on it, but didn't have salt on it, but it looked like it was ocean crafted. See, one of the things people like to utilize to determine the truthfulness of it is how much salt is in the container and also whether or not there are rocks and seashells. So for it to be ocean harvested, what most folks say is there needs to be shells, there need to be rocks, it needs to be attached to a rock because the moss attaches to a rock and that's where it gains its nutrients, and without that attachment to the rock, it does not have any nutrients there. That's for ocean harvested. But what I was thinking about for ocean crafted, so I looked up the minerals that you would find in ocean water, right? Or what rocks would you attach to in the ocean to become ocean harvested to get this like goodness. So like what rocks does it have to be attached to? Like what rocks are in the ocean for it to be, nutritious in that sense? So I looked it up, and the rocks are usually limestone, which is a collection of shells, bones, rocks, salt, minerals, stuff like that. But the ocean itself, the ocean water, apparently has like 40-something minerals in it, right? So if the sea moss is grown in the ocean, right, as wild crafted, then that essentially means that it's still absorbing the minerals that it would get from the rocks. So right here I have a list of 99 sea moss minerals, right? This is from healthynext.com. And then this is the mineral makeup of seawater that came from Stanford's website. So I'm just comparing the two here of what's in each one of these things. Now, this one came from Stanford, but this one right here from Healthy Next, I don't know how they got this information, but this is what we got. They say 99 instead of 92, but we're gonna get to the bottom of this. So, done. So this list here of minerals that make up seawater, right? This one here, 47 minerals make up seawater, but only 36 cross over to this list here. Now, I did have gold on here twice, but only counted it once. But 36 of these minerals make up seawater are apparently in this list of sea moss. Now, still looking because there's not a lot of research apparently on the actual minerals that are in it, at least that I'm finding. So if you found it, let me know I need it. Thank you. So there's really no difference there. And I couldn't really find any solid evidence that there was no difference between wild crafted and wild harvested, or ocean crafted and ocean harvested in that sense, because it still has minerals. And then there's also big inconsistency, between the number of minerals. Some say 92, some say 99. So I'm not sure about that. But then the next thing was the species. There's some different moss species. So I'm going to pronounce these incorrectly, I promise you. But the first one is Condius crypsis, right? This is considered the real Irish sea moss. This is the sea moss that Dr. Sebi talked about a lot in his videos. Now, the only place to get this is going to be Ireland, Maine, Greenland, and anywhere in very cold coastal waters. You can't get it in, Jamaica or anything like that. That's the only place to get this sea moss. Now, it is ocean harvested, so it is not grown or man-made intervention because it's so difficult to tie to a string or anything of that nature. It can be done, but it's not usually done also because of how cold it needs to be in order for this to be made. But the second species is going to be Ichumia cottony, right? I think that's right. Ichumia cottony. Now this stuff you can find in Jamaica, St. Lucia, Grenada, Tanzania, Zanzibar, and also the Philippines. But what's interesting about I'm gonna just call it the cottony variant, is this is a staple food in the Philippines, which is grown in the Philippines there. But there was an issue of a lot of over harvesting of this stuff, so they needed to start farming it. And apparently the same thing happened in St. Lucia, where farmers were over harvesting the sea moss to meet supply and demand from people in the States and across the world, that they just kind of just lost it. So now they're farming it. So with that being said, one of the things I noticed was the ocean harvested and ocean crafted were essentially the same in a sense, from the number of minerals that were absorbed in, because there was no definition that it wasn't. And then there's also, they get the minerals from the ocean. Okay, so then there's the other inconsistency that I'm not a huge fan of, and this I guess is among the sea moss selling community. So I can shut this one down here and go to my phone notes. So what I was taking a look at is other companies, right? Like how do they sell these things, what the price they sell things for, market research in that sense. And there's a huge inconsistency, I guess, in the verbiage people like to utilize. So I'm not going to put any companies out here because I don't want to, get any backlash, but there's some companies and they sell wild crafted sea moss, right? But then they also will mention like how back in Ireland there was a potato famine and stuff like that, which is totally cool and makes sense where people started eating it. But like I said, in the Philippines, they were doing this already. Now, I don't know the time frame when the Philippines were doing this, but it might have been around the same time. So that's totally fine. But then the other issue I'm having with some websites is they'll call their sea moss Irish sea moss, right? They'll call it Irish sea moss, but their sea moss is from St. Lucia. And in St. Lucia, they don't have I gotta go back to my notes, hold up. It's Chondrus crypsus. They don't have Chondrus crypsus over there. And which is an issue for me because now it's just people using the term Irish moss because that's being utilized in the search function. People are searching for Irish moss and they're doing that. There's actually one company here I took a screenshot of, and their company is something Irish sea moss. That's the name of their company. And they have here, this name was chosen of the popularity of the term Irish sea moss. We want it to be easily found, but it says, did you know there's no such thing as Irish sea moss? Well, that's not true. There is Irish sea moss, and that's the sea moss that's in Ireland. Now, this was an Instagram ad because I keep getting ads now about sea moss companies. And I'm like, hold up. There is Irish sea moss. According to this, it's Chondrus crispus that is found in Ireland, Greenland, probably a little bit of Iceland, but more so Ireland, Greenland, and then like Maine, Scandinavia, like the coast of Canada. It exists. It does exist. It's a real thing. But then there's also like folks that are having Jamaican sea moss, and we ordered some of that as well, that are saying it is 100% wild harvested, right? So it is like ocean harvested, it is picked out in the wild. But I got it and I compared it to the ocean crafted stuff, and it looked exactly the same. Everything about it was the same. Everything. So I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then there's other companies that are, of course, bringing it over from different states, like the Zanzibar and Tanzania, or excuse me, different countries. And then there was another thing here. So I'm looking at the Cmos 99 mineral list. Now, I told you there's an inconsistency there between 92 minerals and 99 minerals. And there's a whole bunch of minerals, and I'm going to put this up on the screen so you can look at it, that are found in Cmos. And one of them is gold, number 99. So, you know how I feel about that. So there's a inconsistency in that sense as well. Yeah, so then one of the other things is just, I guess, the way people are telling their customers about the products that they're selling. So I told we bought the fake Cmos from one company as a sample, and on their website though is 100% like the actual photos of actual, and it was the what's this thing pronounced as? It was the Echema Cottony variant of Cmos, 100%. Now, I went through this whole thing talking about Cmos, but I've never explained what it was. Cmos is essentially, and I'm reading this directly off of Wikipedia. So Echema, and this is directly off of Wikipedia, it's commonly known as guso, is a seaweed algae that may be brown, red, or green in color. That's the Echema. Now for the Chondrus crispus, that one is commonly referred to as Irish moss, or Carrageen moss, is a species of red algae which grows abundantly along the rocky parts of the Atlantic coast of Europe and North America. So my biggest issue with this entire thing, more so I guess, falls around the verbiage that people are utilizing. See, that one company was totally honest about the fact that their company just called Irish sea moss, but they don't sell Irish sea moss. But then they're telling people that Irish sea moss doesn't exist, which to me seems kind of tricky because you're calling yourself Irish sea moss, telling your customer that there's no such thing as Irish sea moss. So they think, oh, okay, this is just what it is, but that's not the truth, because let's be honest here, most people don't read past the title in an Amazon, thing. I don't. A lot of times I read the title and I'm like, okay, cool, and I just buy it instead of looking at the description. And that's terrible. So there's an inconsistency because people are calling their sea moss Irish sea moss, but it's from the Caribbean, or they're peddling it as ocean harvested, but it's ocean crafted or pool grown. So with that being said, there's a lot to the Cmos thing, and honestly, you got to do the research on it. But what I will say though, like I said earlier, we are voting and we are going with the ocean crafted and wild crafted, because essentially to us, that seems like the most sustainable practice with the amount of Cmos and the amount of orders we will be peddling out to the world. So with that being said, I already said that, didn't I? With that being said, I will be taking a trip along with Chris Kitts, my wife, Queen Chris. We will be on the Black Spades cruise. Now on this Black Spades cruise is going to go to the Caribbean. And while everybody's out getting drunk and having fun, I'm going to figure out where I can get some actual Cmos and get to the bottom of this. Because there is no way there should be this much inconsistency. Because even Dr. Sebi, when I was watching his videos, he got his Cmos from Honduras. So he got his imported from Honduras. So anybody that's selling Irish Cmos that's not from Honduras, isn't technically following Dr. Sebi's plan like that. But then in another video, someone pointed out that the sea moss he was holding up wasn't Irish sea moss, which is the Condius crispus. It was actually the Echema contini. He was holding that, but using the different term. So it's like, so now I don't think that's a big issue there. He said one of the names for sea moss, but referenced another. It's just a slip of the tongue. I don't know, but that's definitely an interesting thing there. So if he is describing Echema contini, then he's saying this is just fine. But also in the video, he describes how pool-grown sea moss is made, where people use like a wave machine and throw a bunch of salt to make it, you know, grow super fast. So that's the pool-grown stuff, the crappy stuff. And we already talked that that's trash. Okay. So then he also says, this is something I saw people were saying, that fake sea moss causes a lot of mucus, right? A lot of mucus. Well, in Dr. Sebi's video, right? Okay, so in his video, he says that the fake sea moss, okay, when you put it into water, creates a lot of mucilage, right? But mucilage is good, and I have it here to show you all, or to read to you all from the internet. It's off Wikipedia. I took a screenshot here of the first thing that popped up when I put it up. Is my question was, is mucilage, you know, good, or is it edible? And it said mucilage is used in medicine as it relieves irritation of mucous membranes by forming a protective film. It is known to act as a soluble or blah, 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 right? So then my other question was, okay, is mucus the same as mucilage, right? And as nouns, this is from WikiDiff. So what's the difference? As nouns, the difference between mucus and mucilage is that mucus is physiologically a slippery, okay, I'm going crazy, is a slippery secretion from the lining of the mucous membranes, right? That's up in the throat and stuff, in the nose, whatever. And then while mucilage is a thick, gluey substance, gum produced by many plants and some microorganisms. So with that being said, a lot of people are saying, oh, fake sea moss causes mucus. No, it's not what he said. It's mucilage, which is totally different. It's not the same thing. We just read it's there. It's totally different. And then what's the other thing here? So then these are nutrition facts. The nutrition facts essentially when it comes to sea moss, like 2 tablespoons or 10 grams of sea moss is like 4.9 calories, 0.2 protein, 0 fat, some carbs, some sugar, you know, calcium, magnesium, all that other stuff, right? So we already established that there. But then the other thing, because we already talked about the minerals, the other thing is, you know, the moss colors. So there's different colors, and the darker the moss, essentially, the richer it'll be in vitamins and minerals because it was closer to the bottom of the ocean. Because now here's the other thing, right? The sea moss that grows on rocks that you get like by the shoreline is the gold sea moss, right? Usually the gold sea moss. Because in order for it to be that color, it has to be closer to the surface of the sun to get a lot more light. The darker sea moss is in the bottom of the ocean, bottom of the water, where it's harder for light to transmit to get down there, which is the reason why most things at the bottom of the ocean are dark. So the darker the berry, the sweeter juice, essentially. So the darker the sea moss, the richer it's going to be and the better it will be for you, theoretically, scientifically. And then another thing is that people will call their sea moss whatever will sell. We talked about that earlier. People said that their company was some Irish moss, but they said Irish moss wasn't real, but that's false. It is very real. So my advice to you is be very careful when you order from these websites. Use something like PayPal, or what's another one? PayPal, Amazon Pay, something where you can dispute the claim, because if you use Cash App, your money is pretty much gone. All right, so be careful on that end, because you need to do the research to figure out exactly what these people are trying to give you. Because some companies, I saw a video of this one guy, and he had sea moss directly on a rock that he just picked up out of like a shoreline, and I have questions about that, like whether or not it was planted there, but he calls the sea moss wild crafted. And we talked about this earlier because craft means to make, but it looks harvested. and it looks like really good sea moss, but again, it was grown in the ocean, so I have no issues there. But that verbiage is the problem that we're having. So my advice to you is to purchase a small amount of whatever sea moss you're gonna get from whatever company. And when you do that, you know, just do that first, right? Get a small amount. So when you get that small amount, you can test it and sample it. Now, that doesn't stop somebody from sending you the sample of the small amount with the good stuff and then flipping you with the bad stuff. That does happen a lot in like larger companies. They do that, but I don't know about other companies. But what I can tell you is that we will be giving away and selling the mid-tier sea moss. Now, we talked about the tiers earlier, but honestly, I can't remember if I went over this, so let me just say it one more time. There's 3 tiers. Pool grown is the trash tier. Mid-tier is going to be the Echema Contini, the stuff out of St. Lucia, and then top tier is going to be the stuff out of Ireland, okay? Now, top tier can only be grown in Ireland, Greenland, and then the coast of Maine and Scandinavia. Mid-tier, Tanzania, well, even still, the mid-tier comes in 2, it technically has to be split because there is wild harvested and wild grown, like in the wild Echema Contini, so that would be still top tier. So Echema Contini, wild grown, and Condius crypsis, wild grown, is top tier. Mid tier is going to be stuff that's farmed, which means that a farmer had a hand in making it. Now, I was talking to a young lady earlier, and she chooses the wild harvested because it makes her feel better. And I was like, I 100% respect that and believe it, because if I had to choose between an apple grown out in the middle of the woods somewhere versus an apple that a guy grew in his yard, I would go with the one in the middle of the woods because it should be better because it has a lot more natural nutrients. But what I told her is we're going with the farm stuff because it's more sustainable for the environment. So that's what we're going with. But this is, again, mid-tier. There is 3 tiers, and we are choosing mid-tier for the environment also because there's not much of a difference from what I'm seeing between the top tier and the mid-tier when it comes to vitamin consistency, because there's not a lot of consistency of what's in there and what's actually in this moss. So with that being said, if it comes down to it and the mid-tier sea moss only has 36 minerals in it, because this list says 99, but the Seawater says here that it contains, it's like 47 minerals. But the way I'm looking at it here is, if this list is false and this list is real, right? Because this list here was done by Stanford. So if this list here, there's 47 minerals that are in ocean water, which means that if just compared to this list, if this list has some type of truth to it, there's 36 minerals in there that my body is taking in that it would not get regularly when I'm putting it on my face. So I like gold. Gold is in there, silver's in the water, and I'm okay with that. I've gone crazy, but hopefully you learned something. And I haven't learned everything because I'm new to this game and I don't want to disrespect anybody's, lifestyle when it comes to this. And I'm pretty sure there may be some controversy and a lot of people in the comments saying, I'm wrong. But please, I would love to hear it because I'm looking for some answers. Okay. Yeah, I'm going crazy. So with that being said, I think I say that a lot. But with that being said, I'm going to conclude this video and leave it to you to give me some answers of what you think. Because to recap, pool grown is trash, ocean crafted and ocean harvested are the exact same thing. Just ocean harvested is more damaging to the environment. Ocean crafted is more sustainable. That's what we think, that's my opinion. May not be yours, totally fine. People lie, they use the wrong verbiage, but they may not be doing it on purpose, but some people definitely are. And then the regions where this stuff comes from definitely makes a difference, because if it's not coming from one of these places, like Europe, Greenland, Ireland. So it's not coming from one of these places, Ireland, Greenland, Scandinavia, Maine, then it's most likely not Irish moss. There's a lot to this, there's a lot. But I hope you learned something. I know I did in this past week, 2 weeks I've been looking this stuff up. And hopefully you don't get scammed. So, on our website right now, because I'm dropping this video, you can actually get the free moss. So just follow the description or the instructions in the title bar of my website, and you'll be good to go. I am tired. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 7:49 p.m.
Okay, that's not bad. All right, but I gotta go do stuff. I'm a dad. So yeah, Do me a solid favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video if you can. Please go home and tell your, I don't know, your aunt that you love her. See ya.